Hash the trillion-dollar water monopoly. Wall Street's most dangerous bet while you weren't looking. Wall Street bought the future, and it's buried beneath your feet. They're not buying land to farm it. They're buying what's underneath. Water. The most valuable commodity on Earth. And it's running out. Right now, hedge funds are quietly assembling the largest land portfolios in American history. Thousands of acres, millions of dollars, all for one reason: control. But here's what makes this terrifying. They don't want the soil, they want what flows through it. Underground, invisible, and completely unregulated. This is the story of the greatest resource grab in modern history, and you're about to understand exactly how they're doing it. Let's start with a number that should keep you up at night: 40%. That's how much of America's groundwater has vanished in the last 80 years. Gone. Pumped dry, never to return in our lifetimes. The Ogallala Aquifer alone, the largest underground reservoir in North America, is disappearing 8 times faster than nature can refill it. Scientists call it fossil water. Once it's gone forever, and Wall Street knows this. In 2012, something strange started happening across the Great Plains. Farmland prices suddenly skyrocketed, not in fertile regions, not near cities. In the driest counties of Nebraska, Kansas, and Texas, agricultural investment firms nobody had heard of were paying double the market rate, sometimes triple. Local farmers couldn't compete. These weren't farming companies. They were financial entities, subsidiaries of hedge funds, private equity giants, pension funds managing trillions, and they all wanted the same thing. Here's how the scheme works. In most of America, land ownership includes something called correlative rights. If you own the property, you own what's beneath it, the water. And here's the kicker. There's almost no federal regulation on groundwater extraction. None. You can pump as much as you want, drain entire aquifers, sell the water for profit. It's perfectly legal. A loophole worth trillions. Let me introduce you to the players. TIAA, Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association. They manage $700 billion in assets. They own over 200,000 acres of farmland, just for the water underneath. Hancock Agricultural Investment Group, 500,000 acres across 8 states. The wonderful company, owned by billionaires Stuart and Linda Resnick. They control more California water than almost anyone. Almonds, pistachios, pomegranates, but really, water. The Resnicks alone are worth $5 billion. Their secret? They don't just own farmland. They own the entire vertical supply chain. The land, the water rights, the distribution networks, the politicians. In California's Central Valley, they pump billions of gallons annually, while nearby towns run dry. Literally. Residents shower with bottled water. Schools close drinking fountains. But the almonds keep growing. Now scale that model across the entire country. That's the plan. Institutional investors have purchased over 30 million acres of American farmland since 2008. That's an area larger than Pennsylvania. But they're not farming most of it. They're banking water, holding it, waiting for scarcity to make them richer. Let's talk about what happens when water becomes truly scarce. Look at the Southwest. Lake Mead is at 27% capacity. The Colorado River is dying. 40 million people depend on it. Cities are already implementing rationing. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles. But agricultural operations with private water rights? They're untouched. They keep pumping, while everyone else goes thirsty. Here's where it gets darker. These investment funds aren't just hoarding water. They're creating artificial scarcity. By extracting groundwater faster than it replenishes, they're manufacturing the crisis that makes their investment valuable. It's disaster capitalism in its purest form. The worse things get, the more money they make, and there's nothing stopping them. The legal framework is deliberately broken. Western states follow the prior appropriation doctrine. First in time, first in right. Whoever claimed the water first gets priority forever. These hedge funds are buying up those ancient claims, some dating back to the 1800s. They're acquiring legal precedent, permanent control. In Arizona, a single Saudi-owned company farms alfalfa in the desert. They ship it back to feed cows in Saudi Arabia. They're draining Arizona's aquifers to export water disguised as hay. The state government tried to stop them. They couldn't. The water rights were ironclad. But the real endgame isn't farming, it's commodification. Wall Street wants water to become like oil, tradable, financialized, subject to market forces. Water futures already trade on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Since December 2020, you can now bet on California's water supply, speculate on drought, profit from thirst. Michael Burry saw this coming. The investor who predicted the 2008 housing crisis, he's been buying water rights for over a decade. His quote, "Freshwater investments will be the most important in the coming decades. Not technology, not crypto, water." Let's connect the macroeconomic dots. Climate change intensifies, aquifers deplete, populations grow, demand skyrockets, supply controlled by a handful of institutional investors. What happens next? They don't sell the water cheap. They create a choke point, a bottleneck. Cities, states, entire regions become dependent on private water supplies at whatever price the market will bear. This isn't theoretical. In Michigan, Nestle pumps 200 gallons per minute from the Great Lakes watershed. They pay $200 annually, total. They bottle it, sell it back to Americans for billions. Now imagine that model, but with every water source in the country. The Pentagon already classifies water as a national security threat. Intelligence reports warn that water scarcity could destabilize entire nations, trigger mass migration, start wars, and private investors are positioning themselves at the center of that crisis, profiting from it. The Department of Defense knows, they're watching, but they're not stopping it. Here's what makes this different from every other resource grab in history. You can live without oil, you can adapt, you cannot live without water. It's non-negotiable, which means whoever controls it, controls everything. California offers a glimpse of the future. During the last major drought, wealthy landowners sold water rights to cities for astronomical prices. Some made more money selling water than farming for decades. They profited from crisis. While communities rationed, the infrastructure is already being built. Across the Midwest, massive pipelines are being constructed, not for oil, for water, connecting aquifer-rich regions to water-scarce cities. Who owns those pipelines? The same investment firms buying the land. Vertical integration, complete control. Municipal water systems are crumbling. Flint, Michigan was just the beginning. Thousands of American cities have contaminated or failing water infrastructure. They can't afford repairs, so they're privatizing, selling water systems to private equity firms who raise rates, cut maintenance, maximize profit, and when residents can't pay, shutoffs. Detroit cut water to over 100,000 residents in 2014 for unpaid bills. The United Nations called it a human rights violation. It didn't matter. The privatized system prioritized profit. People suffered. This is the blueprint. Now imagine that reality nationwide. That's what these land purchases enable. A future where water isn't a right. It's a product. Priced, controlled, withheld by the same financial institutions that crashed the economy in 2008. The regulatory vacuum is intentional. Lobbyists have spent decades ensuring groundwater remains unregulated. Campaign donations flow to state legislators. Water rights laws stay unchanged. Loopholes stay open. And the buying continues. Here's the trillion-dollar question. What happens when these investment funds decide to stop farming altogether? When they simply hold the water rights, lease them to the highest bidder, or sell directly to desperate cities at monopoly prices? You might think, someone will stop this. Who? The EPA has no jurisdiction over groundwater in most states. Congress has been deadlocked for years. State governments are underfunded and outmatched. Against billion-dollar legal teams, they don't stand a chance. This isn't conspiracy. It's public record. SEC filings, land deeds, corporate reports, all of it legal, all of it happening right now. While America focuses on stock markets and crypto, the real wealth transfer is underground, silent, irreversible. Some investors are calling water the new gold. They're wrong. It's more valuable than gold. You can't drink gold. You can't grow food with gold. Gold is optional. Water is survival. And that's exactly why this works. Necessity creates inelastic demand. You'll pay anything. They know it. You know it. The market knows it. The end game is global. American firms are exporting this model worldwide. Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, buying land, securing water rights, building monopolies, creating dependence, then monetizing desperation. So what can stop this? Federal regulation, a complete overhaul of water rights law, public ownership guarantees, but that requires political will. And right now, the money flows the other way. This is the most dangerous bet Wall Street has ever made. Not because it might fail, but because it's already working. And when the water runs out, when aquifers collapse, when cities go dry, they'll be the only ones left holding the tap. The question isn't whether this will happen. It's already happening. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Before the